So let's add some distortion real quick just while we're on it. Already more interesting, right? And again, there's some like low end boominess that got added. So after distortion, I'll come and add an EQ, sculpt the sound even more, and it's right in there, and boom. So here's without distortion on the room mic with. Turn it down a little bit. And you know, this distortion is just one of many distortions. At the school, I believe we have the Sound Toys. It's not in my plugin bundle, I don't think. No. I don't know why it's not in Logic, but Sound Toys Decapitator is a wonderful plugin for this situation. But there's no right one across the board. This is just the stock Logic distortion with the stock settings. You know, I didn't even sculpt this, and it already, to my ears, is sounding a little more interesting. I would obviously come and sculpt this sound a little more, especially in context with the rest of the mix. So these guitars, let's add a little distortion to these. And just see what happens. I don't even know if this is gonna sound good. Again, just throwing it on there, not even. So it did bring up some low end kind of muddiness that I'm gonna clean up with an EQ after the distortion. And again, I still have the EQ from earlier still in the chain. This is an EQ that I'm adding now after it comes out of, after the signal comes out of the distortion. So right in there. Whoops. And then I'll add another low cut too, because it brought up some. You can see all this low, like below 60 hertz, came out of that distortion. We'll go even higher. We'll go to like 60. Cool. So this is without distortion here. We'll play it. With. Turn down the volume a little bit to compensate. And then I'm going to add the same EQ to the double. Again, this is the EQ after the sound is coming out of the distortion plugin. And we'll volume match these and take a listen. So obviously we hear the clipping a little bit, you know, which depending on how far along in your production program you are, that you might have been told that's bad, which it generally is while you're learning how to record. But often distortion is used creatively to make elements stick out in the mix a little bit, or to add interest or excitement in a way where it's enriching the harmonic content of the sound. So obviously we did not record this distorted, because then we have no control over whether it's distorted or not. This is something we're doing creatively. It's kind of a hard tell because the volume jump is so drastic. So when we kick on the distortion, the volume just jumps like crazy. So let's see what this level compensation's about, because I have a feeling that will fix it. And then we can leave these faders at one volume. Let's see what volume this is. Nice. Okay, so let's turn these output volumes down even more to better level match, so we can better judge. Yeah, that's sounding more even. So we'll turn these faders up. So this will be without distortion. made it a little warmer. It made the mix gel a little more. That same idea can be applied to bass in a similar fashion, especially in rock genres. So where that's just adding a little bit of grit, we can do the same with the bass. Turn the level compensation, turn the output down. Oops. I'm gonna turn down the output a little. Actually, that sounds like a little more than I might like, so I'm gonna turn this drive down a hair. So this is without distortion. With. Again, we're hearing it clip a little bit, and it might be too much. When, you know, if we can hear that in the mix and it sounds like it's clipping, that's bad. But I have a feeling it's all going to gel together real nicely. Without distortion. And I'll play it with. When you hear saturation when it comes to mixing, it's talking about adding in some kind of like harmonic content, some grit, like we just did, that we just saturated the sound. So again, you know, this is without any reverb or fancy delays. This is just corrective mixing. And when you get good at this, and when you start learning what to listen for, and start learning what frequency ranges, problem areas that you're hearing are in, this gets very quick. And it's one of my favorite parts of mixing actually is starting with just raw files and doing this, because the change is drastic. Like it's crazy how clean it gets in a good way, not clean in a sterile way. You know, I'm not talking about sterile, boring mixes here. You know, like this, I'm talking about good mixing. It's crazy how these techniques add up. You know, this is just, you know, 12 drum mics or whatever, a bass and 2 guitars, and, you know, maybe a synth or 2. When you have a professional production or an actual song that you're working on, you'll have potentially a lot more tracks. And the more you do this, the more you're going to notice the difference between before and after. So I am sorry these videos are very long. Obviously, I enjoy talking about this stuff, and it would be hard to do this in a similar capacity during class. So if you stuck around, I hope you learned something. I'll probably continue making a couple more videos on editing these guitars together, and maybe even reverb and delay and stuff. But yeah, hopefully you learned something. I'll see you in the next one.